Testing. 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 Can't hear it. Testing. 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 1, 2. 1, 2. Testing. Testing. Hello? It's too loud. Hello? Because of the speaker setup, I'm getting a lot of feedback. What I'm going to have you do, who's the one that's going to be starting off speaking? So I'm going to have her mic up right here, and she's just going to have that. When she's done, she needs to give me back the mic. So every time whoever's talking needs to hold on to this, like clip it somewhere. I will give it to you. So this is the hot mic right here, right now. I'm going to turn this on. I'm going to move this out. And whoever's going to join it, like that. Okay?
So,
Cool. That's it. Just leave it here.
So no microphone necessary, just this.
Yeah. Because what I'm doing is I can't play it through the speaker. But you can talk here and people on the internet.
Okay.
So
we don't need to stand up, just talk sitting here.
Yep.
Okay.
This is your internet microphone.
Okay. So I need to tell them, and I realize like we're running late already.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What's up? So this is the microphone. I guess we can just sit here and talk, so it can feed through the speakers. We don't have to get up.
Yeah, there's a lot of feedback, but we're fine. Just as long as you talk loud enough that so pick it up, I'll give you heads up. There was a black binder.
Yes, it's on the table. I thought it was yours, so I put it on your chair.
Can you
Let me get it.
get your friend to get that to me? Because those are the timing cards that I have.
Yeah. It's scary. It's scary out there. Oh. Where is the mic? And no mic. Where's the mic?
Microphone is it?
What? Are we going to sit?
Yeah. He says he already felt one drop. He already felt one drop of rain.
Yeah.
Sit down. He wants to be able to hear the feedback.
Are we going to sit here and read?
Yes. This is the mic right here, so we don't have to do anything.
Okay.
Yes. So make sure, like, when you flip your papers, you don't make too much noise because of the microphone, okay?
About jet lag, it is real. This is an absolute privilege to perpetuate something that was started in this coffee house about this time last year. We started the KAU, Kentuckiana Africans United. And if anybody wonders what color an African is, look at the 4, 5, 6 of us. Okay, that's what we are. This really came about. Who wrote the first book? I think Felicia did, that I know about. Okay, Felicia did, and then Margaret, and then Selma. And it's been an absolute privilege to be part of it in the respect of promoting it. Each time, I'm going to, who do I introduce first? And then I want to thank Damien. Thank you very much for being here, for doing this for the ladies, for the Zoom meetings that you've done for us. And it's just a privilege to have you here from the BLVE. Much appreciated. Moderator, who am I introducing first?
Margaret goes first.
Margaret goes first. Margaret's an amazing woman, a teacher at JPS for how many years? 20 years. And if you see the artwork that we've got hanging on the wall next to the lamp, that's Margaret's work. Margaret, how many children do you have?
This is three sons, 3 young men. 2 of them are here.
Pleased to meet you guys. Thank you very much. And Margaret's book is a fun book. It's OSC, the Nigerian Cinderella. Just wait until I introduce Felicia's book. It's a great read. It's fun. It's just another take on the fact that color is irrelevant in our lives. It should be irrelevant in our lives. And it's just beautiful the way she's done it. Margaret.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to our book signing. My name is Margaret Carey, and I am the author of Ose the Nigerian Cinderella. I'm a retired teacher, but I'm also an artist, a designer, and a writer. I'm originally from Nigeria, as I'm sure some of you can tell from my accent. I moved to the United States of America, September of 1989. So the United States is basically my second home. Back in Nigeria, my first degree was in textile design, and so I taught fine art in a high school. I also love teaching Sunday school because I love children, little children. It was not a surprise to my friends and family members when, after 10 years of being a stay-at-home mom in the US, I decided to pursue a career in teaching. In 1998, I went through an alternative certification program that allowed me to become a teacher here in the United States. I started my career in August of 1999 in Jefferson County Public School and retired December of 2019. I taught kindergarten through 3rd grade. My favorite grade level was always the 2nd grade. This is because many of my students at this stage are becoming good readers, and I can assign them something to do while I worked with my struggling readers. This is where I spent 17 years of my 20 years, and I have 3 adult children, Tamako, Fak, and Isimeme Tari. Now I want to tell you a little bit about what inspired me to become a writer. When I was a little girl, my mom, Victoria Omokodion, used to tell us amazing African folk tales. I am the 3rd of 6 children. I really do not know about my siblings, but I was always very fascinated by these stories, and I asked my mom to retell these stories over and over and over again, and she didn't mind doing so. So it's no surprise that I am the one that ended up developing this interest in writing. So during my first 10 years in the United States as a stay-at-home mom, I decided to put some of these stories in writing. I hand-wrote 4 of these stories in notebooks. I didn't write these stories the way my mom told them to us. I like good endings because most of mom's stories ended with very sad endings. So I made some changes to these stories. My first 4 publications were from the African folk tales that my mom told us, with my own twist to it. My children were my very first audience. They read my stories and they actually typed all my manuscripts, because at this time, I didn't know how to type. They were the ones who first encouraged me to publish them. They were the ones, Mom, they said, these are just like the stories that we read in school. Since I could not afford to publish them here, I published them in Nigeria. I often use these stories in my classroom, and some of these stories are used in some Nigerian schools. In my classroom, there's a unit I enjoyed teaching so much because my students loved it too. It was the unit on comparing and contrasting stories with similar elements. My students were able to work in small groups and they enjoyed this. Most times, when we came to this unit, my students would pick the Cinderella story, probably because it has so many versions from around the world. I like this because I believe in an inclusive education. my students were able to see the same story from different cultural perspectives. I believe that all students should be able to see themselves in the school books or other learning materials. I also taught my students to treat others the way they want to be treated. So, I'm going to tell you about a little boy named Jonelle. He was in my kindergarten class. That year, it's like Jonelle just came to the United States of America as an immigrant. It's like he came on a Friday and was thrown in the classroom the very next Monday. So, of course, when Jonelle came to school, what do you think he did? He cried. First of all, culture shock. And then you have him looking around. He was brought to school by his mom. He looked around and saw that he didn't recognize anybody. And the worst part of it, he could not speak the language. I do not believe that this should be done to any kid, because as an adult, I came to this country when I was in my early 30s. And I know it wasn't easy. We lived in Portland, Oregon for 2 years. It was tough because, first of all, there weren't many black people around me. And the 2 years we lived in Portland, Oregon, guess what? I only met 2 Nigerians. So it was tough. I cried a lot. And you can't even compare that time to now when we have cell phone services all over the place. Then there were no cell phone services. I would write a letter. It would take about 2 weeks to get to Nigeria and another 2 weeks to come here. So I completely identified with Jonelle. He cried and he cried. And it's like it was beginning to affect the other students in the classroom. 5-year-olds, because this is a kindergarten class, they were upset. I was helpless. I was not upset because I felt bad for Jonelle. I wished there was something I could do to help him. But the second or the third day, it's like an idea just popped into my head, and I said to my assistant, you go to the school library, go and get as many very elementary Spanish books as you can find. Let's see what that would do for Jonelle. We did that, put all the books in his desk, and laid one on his table to see if it will interest him. First day, nothing. We sat another Spanish little girl by him. He would talk a little bit, but then he would cry and cry. And from just interpreting up back and forth, we knew that all he wanted was to go home to his mama. So we will call the office, administration will come, take him out for 10 minutes and bring him back. And I will look at them and say, how am I supposed to teach? I didn't need to say, they knew what was in my mind. How am I supposed to teach with this child crying all day long? And the answer I got was, he's supposed to be in the classroom. And there was nothing I could do about that. And like I said, by the third day, it's like Jonelle was tired of crying for that day. He was quiet, he was staring around, and then all of a sudden, it was my opportunity to put in some teaching right away. I was teaching, I always like to move around when I'm teaching, and I was doing my teaching, and I noticed that Jonelle was flipping through the Spanish book, very elementary picture book, in front of him. And then I noticed he had a big smile on his face. Wow, that was the first time I was seeing him smile. So I walked around and went behind him to see what he was smiling about. And lo and behold, he was on a page that had a little Spanish boy, of course with a background that he can identify with. That was why he was smiling. That's when it dawned on me all of a sudden, oh wow, this boy just needed to feel like he was included in our setting. So from that day on, my assistant, other students, and myself all worked very hard to help Jonelle to know that he was amongst friends and that he belonged in our classroom community. After my experience with Jonelle, I started collecting storybooks from different cultures around the world for my classroom library. Everyone in my classroom needs to have a sense of belonging. I wanted all my students to be able to see someone that looks like them in the books in our classroom. This is probably when I first thought about writing Ose, the Nigerian Cinderella. This story was written entirely from my imagination. I wanted this story to be written from the perspective of an African in an African setting. So even though this story is fictional, it also has some historical facts to it. There really did exist an Edo kingdom in the 11th century AD. It was one of the oldest and highly developed kingdoms in West Africa. This kingdom flourished until it was annexed by the British Empire in 1897. Louisville, if you look around, Louisville has really become a very diverse city with a lot of black immigrants from many black African countries and also immigrants from Spanish, Chinese, Korea, Arab-speaking countries. I enjoyed having a diverse classroom, being an immigrant myself. In my last year of teaching, my second grade class was made up of students from 14 different nationalities. This was my most amazing class. I completed my career with these students with a great unit on cultural diversity. This was a wonderful way to end my career. My students put up a great presentation. We all got to see a little bit of these different cultures. We also got to see that even though we have so many things, some differences, we actually do have more in common. We also got to, let's see. Again, I'm saying to each and every one of us here, let us treat each other with kindness and respect. I retired December of 2019. The pandemic started 2020. This was the perfect time for me to start writing Ose the Nigerian Cinderella. I started by doing my research to make sure no one else has written a Cinderella story from the sub-Saharan Africa, Black Africa. There is the Egyptian Cinderella, but it was not a black Cinderella. There is the Mufaro's beautiful daughter, sometimes referred to as the Black Cinderella story, but it doesn't have many similarities like the original Cinderella story. Even though I already had all the ideas of what I wanted to write or what my Cinderella story was going to be like, it still took me almost 2 years to get it published, November of 2021. I had to get an illustrator from Nigeria to do my illustrations because in my mind, I just knew that there was no way an illustrator here could capture the images I had in my mind. Finally, a Black Cinderella was now available from Africa that all our little girls could relate to and see themselves as beautiful. The story, Ose the Nigerian Cinderella, is a story about the struggles between good and evil. So just like the original Cinderella story, Ose is rewarded at the end for being good. The main lesson from this story, we should treat others the way we want to be treated. We live in a world where people are so mean and so wicked. We should not be one of them. Rather, we should be one of those who make good choices and stand up for what is right. Do not stand by and see someone being mistreated. If you cannot do something about it, reach out to somebody who can, even if you have to do it anonymously. Ose did not get anybody to stand up for her until her guardian angel came into her life. I want to say to everyone here, treat others the way you want to be treated. Let us treat each other with kindness and respect and work hard to celebrate our differences because there are differences. This is what will make our world a better place to live in. Thank you very much and God bless. Now, I'm just going to read one paragraph from my story. I love this passage so much too, actually. How do you know my name, Mom? My mama didn't even, let's start again. How do you know my mama? I didn't even know her because I was too young. This is Ose speaking. Every person who has a pure heart has a guardian angel. Beautiful Ose. Look at me. I'm not beautiful. I'm ugly. Ose, I want you to look in the water. Ose did as she was told. She looked down in the clear blue water of the stream. She saw a beautiful image, like a younger version of the beautiful woman who called herself her guardian angel. Ose stepped back in disbelief. That is you. No matter how many times they try to cover up your beauty, this is the real Ose. Go home for now, my dear. Your time for happiness is very near. Thank you very much. So thank you. Shut up.
Wow. Guys, just imagine if any one of the mayors running for office right now spoke about love and respect. Who would not vote for them? Thank you so much, Lord. Appreciate that, Margaret.
Thank you.
And then, guys, I have the absolute privilege of introducing a young lady whose pastor was the leader of the political party that I ran for in South Africa in the first free elections that we ever had, in 1994. Reverend Kenneth Mishwe was the leader of the ACDP, African Christian Democratic Party, and I had the privilege of running against Nelson Mandela's party, the ANC. Thank you very much. There we go. I had the privilege of running against the ANC, of which Nelson Mandela's prison mate was a guy by the name of Ahmad Kathrada, an Indian guy, who was married. Does anybody know who he was married to? He was married to Barbara Hogan, who's a white lady, who's my dad's cousin. So politically, I go quite deep in Africa. But one word that I want to use that Felicia understands very well is the word Ubuntu. I can call her my daughter, and I mean that, and it is meant in Africa in every sense. The word Ubuntu is what we really lack in America, generally. It's caring about, it's the love and respect we were talking about. It's the caring about each other, doing to somebody else what you want them to do to you, period. No more, no less. Felicia, I'm glad you're going to explain your book. July and September. It's a lovely, fun book. It was such fun on the Zoom meeting when the three ladies were explaining their books, and when Felicia was explaining them, the other two ladies were like, "What? What?" But it's great fun. Felicia, thank you so much. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. All right. I hope everyone can hear me, because I will put the disclaimer that that's why I'm a writer. I don't like public speaking, and I'm not good at it. So just raise your hand if you can't hear me, and I'll try to project my voice, okay? I do want to start by talking about July and September just for a little bit before I get into things. So the title of my book is July and September. And people usually ask me why that title. I guess you have to read it to understand, or otherwise I'll give up the whole book. So I was born and raised in South Africa, and I've lived in the United States now for a little over 20 years. I have lived here in Louisville, and I know the Ndaba family because I've worked with them a little bit. Zulu is my native tongue, and I am in like Zulu gab, which is what Ntombi would wear, which is a South African attire for the most part. So how did I become a writer? I was 12 years old when I discovered the world of poetry, just the weight of words and what it entailed, right? I remember where I was, what I was wearing, and what the room smelled like. I was in Mrs. Burr's class. I was wearing my uniform, which was a yellow tunic with a primrose emblem on the side. And the room smelled like chalk, yellow apples, and old books. The poem that got me interested in poetry was a poem titled Absent Yet Present by Edward Bowler Layton. I don't think I ever understood the meaning of it, but I just remember how it made me feel. And as a writer, that's what I always try to invoke, just feeling. Whether you love it or hate it or just absolutely cry about it, just as long as you feel something. And that has always been my intention as a writer. I was absolutely and utterly enthralled by this poem. And to this day, it's one of my favorite poems just because it takes me back to that 12-year-old and how she felt at the time. That poem turned me into a serial plagiarist. I didn't know what plagiarism at the time, but I started keeping journals where I would take a poem here, a song here, and put them together and just call it my own, just so I can feel these feelings and make somebody feel things. Growing up in my neighborhood, we had this game called Ukotlisa, which you collect stones and you use them to tell stories. There was only 2 people that were good at this, and it was me and another lady, or girl at the time. And I didn't pay much attention to it because I was good in sports, so I concentrated mostly in sports. It wasn't until I was in high school, and still I was an athlete. I was a runner. I did high jump, and I did short put, anything. I was hurdles, long jump, but I still loved to ride. And I would always get in trouble in school because I always would make up words because I wanted people to feel a certain way. And if a word didn't do, I would create my own. So I had an English teacher named Ms. Huisen, and she would always give me a hard time for this, but she loved me because she knew I was a good writer, and she always encouraged that. Fast forward to when I was in my, I was working on my associate's degree at JCC, and I was in a poetry class where we had to write a series of poetry. So my professor afterwards approached me, and he asked me to read at this Insomniac-a-thon. I obliged, and I read. I hated it, of course, because I am not good with people and just projecting and talking in large crowds. But I fast forward again to when I was an undergraduate at IUS, and I took a creative writing class. My minor was actually in Spanish, but I had an English and philosophy major with a concentration in writing. So I wrote a short story titled Turn the Page, and it was from a male perspective. I remember the professors there, they encouraged us to enter this competition. It was a Metroversity competition, which, if you don't know, it's all the colleges in Kentucky and Indiana, and I won first place. 3 things I remember about that, or at least realized. I was actually good at this writing thing. 2, I love writing from a male perspective. And 3, free verse. I mean, when you can write a short story and you're not restricted by rhyme or stanzas the way poetry does, I realized I could expand my horizon as well as my writing capabilities. And so I went with that. Fast forward to now, July and September. This is not the first book that I've written, but it's the first book that I've published. So it took me years to write, but it's because it was something. So my mother always told me, writing is just a hobby. Please, for the love of God, have a backup plan and use that as a hobby. And that's what I did. I started with my master's in communications, which was my passion degree. I always tell people. And then I got a master's in IT and then HR. And then 5 master's degrees later, I still go back to writing, which was my first passion, right? I mean, I do work as a IT systems analyst by day, but I call myself a writer by night. So what is this book really about, right? Here's a kicker. So first of all, it's PG-25. It's not for everybody, right? It has a specific genre. It is considered YA, romance, but there's also some erotica in there. It's crazy, it's powerful, it makes you laugh, it makes you cry. I mean, you love the protagonist. Our protagonist is Dorian Benson, who is somebody you want to hate, but you love at the same time. Sometimes you want to throw the book away, but you want to find out what happens. So from chapter 2, people tell me that they're just taken in and they can't put the book down. I've had people who told me that they hate this about him, they don't like this, but my question is always, did you feel something? Did you hate somebody? Did you hate what he did? And of course, there was some sort of feeling, which I believe then that I, as a writer, have done my part. That's all I want to create. Hate, love, whatever it is, I just want you to feel something. And this book is a little bit poetic. It's a little bit rhythmic. It's a little bit deep. It's a little bit crazy. Sometimes you don't understand it, but that's the whole point. You just want to keep reading. And no matter who I ask, I always get a different story. I mean, it's one book, but I've heard 10 stories out of this book, which I love. So this Benson, a protagonist, he is a father, or at least he knows himself as a father, But when that title is threatened, he loses his footing in life. I mean, he just loses it and he's all over the place. And so the book is about us following that journey. So aside from the genre or everything else, it's just what we follow for him, with him, as we read. I mean, our hearts are raptured within the first chapter. We are unraveled. I mean, you are just taken apart and put back together. Or at least that's my version of it. So I would like to read an excerpt from the book. And what I always tell people, it's at the very back of the book, but I tell people to read that first before you start the book, because then it doesn't really help you understand the book as you go along, but right away you're nestled. You know where your mind is supposed to go when you read it. So I hope you enjoy this. It's a poem in the back titled Bear. Drown me, baptize me with death, hurt me so bad it feels good, banish me. I just want to die. I want to expire in your arms and cease to be. Only you can hurt me, deep through my muscles and into my bones. Bury me, burn inside of me until I burst into flames. I just want to die. I want to perish with your arms around me, because nothing is enough. Breathing digs my grave. Swallow me. Hold me inside your mouth until I dissolve into you and disappear inside of you. Envelop me with your hair. I can't live. I just want to die loving you, breathing you, wanting you. Take hold of my soul and never give it back. I bleed you. I infect myself with you and die with every breath you take without me. I'm hypnotized by you, consumed under your spell. I hunger for you, crave your every fiber. Confine me, turn me inside out, run through me like a fever. Don't let me go. Don't ever let me go. So this poem, usually when I read this to people or we discuss it, I usually get two reactions, one or the other. We have a discussion and we talk about how this is how somebody wants to be loved. This is the passion. This is the deep, deep stuff that you want to feel and you want somebody to feel for you. Or I have some people who thinks this is stalker crazy, like nobody wants this, right? So you decide where in the realm this lies. But either way, hopefully it captured something inside of you where you feel something. And I hope my words touch you in some way or another. Thank you.
You guys, you see what I mean by a daughter, eh? What a privilege I have to have served under her pastor. Sorry, what a privilege I have to have served under her pastor and not even known her until we came to Louisville. All right. Selma has an amazing history. Let me just say that even before I introduce your book. Selma, you have really been the epitome of coming to America with nothing and making something. So many of us come over here and with a woe is me attitude, but you have come over, you've persevered, you've done unbelievably well in the Vatican, in Italy, and I love the name of your book, Making It Big in the USA. That kind of makes me a little bit related to you, hey? It's interesting when we look at our histories, when we look at what her family was involved in Angola and what I was involved in as a white South African. Because I'm white, I was drafted into the military, 2 years military or 5 years in jail. So I was an operational paramedic. When we look at her history, it wasn't. And it was just so interesting to come together and to be able to do this. Guys, this is an amazing book, and it's amazing not just because of the book itself, but because of the meat behind it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. We really appreciate you so much. And we had amazing books already up front. So I will just introduce myself, and then I will go into my book. My name is Selma Jacinto Dominguez, and my 2 kids are here. I have 3 kids. Lucy, she's on the way. And I'm a single mother. So I lived in Italy for many years before coming to the US. and I have a master's degree in social science. And in Italy, I worked close to at university in Vatican City, where I was the first woman to be the president of the Conference of the Students of the Vatican. And it was very surprising because I'm from Africa and I'm a black woman, and I was in all the male roles. So after my master's degree, I went back to Angola and I became one of the youngest professors at public university, and I work with the government. I work to a big philanthropy nonprofit organization that belongs to the ex-president of Angola. But my biggest challenge when I went back to Angola was because I was woman. I'm a woman. And if you don't know a little bit about the history of Angola, unfortunately, it's very male-dominant society. So women doesn't really have a lot of choices to express themselves. And I was assigned to teach military students. And how you can see, I'm very high, right? I'm very small, and for their surprise, was like, oh, so you are our teacher. So where did you went to school? Who is your father? Do you have anyone in the government that helped you, achieving this goal? And I was like, no, this is just me. I always loved to read, and my whole life was academical, so I came from an academic family, and I'm here to be your professor. So that was really a big challenge. And because of all the challenge that I had in Angola, especially as a professional, and second of all, as a woman professional, and third of all, as a young woman professional. That was a really big challenge and made me question the future of my children. And also because the way I was teaching my students was to help them empower themselves as a person, as a student, and special women, because they didn't know what to do. They have dreams, they have children, but because of the political and instrumental society and governmental, they really didn't have the choice to overcome the challenge. And this is one of the reasons that I came here to the USA. After working in Angola for 4.5 years, I became a public speaker. I was helping my students to overcome the challenge and empower themselves. And this is just the type of situation that it's not welcome in a country like mine and so many others in Africa and around the world. So when I came here in the US, I knew in the state of Kentucky only one person. I came with my 3 kids, single mother. I didn't speak the language. I had to learn English here, and I had no connection. Have you been in the situation where you don't have so much choice? Or have you been in the situation where everything that you have is new? New system, new friends, new environment? Or have you been in the situation where you don't have a lot of resources just to take you from where you are now to where you want to be? That was me 6.5 years when I came here to the US. And I can tell you that for the immigrant perspective can be very frustrated, very overcoming, and you can have a lot of fears because you don't know. You don't know the tomorrow, and even more, you just don't know where to start, especially where to start, because everything that you have is not familiar. It's all new. So if you can see, now you see me here and you're like, oh, wow, she's a successful person. So I had to go back in my life where I had to adapt two types of mindset that really helped me as a single mother, never speak English before, had to learn everything, had to build a new relationship, make your kids at school, to overcome a challenge and be able to be here today in the front of you. The first mindset I adopted is how to have the open mindset. That's the first mindset I adopted. And the second one is problem versus solution. Focus in the solution and not on the problems. If you focus on your problem, you open door for more problems. But you focus on the solution, you will open door for more opportunities. That's what I did. The first step I did was really to have a very open mind and not think that my new environment is something negative, but is something positive that really can help me take it from where I was to where I want to be, even with my children. So I did a lot of volunteer work at the hospital here in the US, at my church, at bookstores, and at shopping without speaking English. But my goal was really to start listen and learn. And if you can, and I believe that everyone has this all new in our lives, where we will find ourselves in the situation that we just don't know. But you have to go. Or you decide to start, or you will stay in the same place forever. And to stay in the same place, that was not my goal. And I started thinking more about this. That's why I wrote my book. One of the things that really inspired me writing this book, because when I was working in the bank, I had a lot of this question: how did you did so fast to work in the bank? Did you speak English before? And I was like, no, I just learned it here. But how so? And I realized that there is still a lot of immigrants here in the US that unfortunately they didn't have the right type of mindset, and they really stayed a little bit behind just because of some kind of situation where they had to change their environment and just didn't have that kind of right mindset, how they could overcome the challenge. It inspired me to write my book. It's a very mindset and inspired book where I share the types of mindset that I adopted here in the US to overcome challenge. And if you can really imagine it, you could ask yourself, how on earth a single mother, young mother of 3 kids without speak English at all will travel to a different continent with 3 kids just knowing one person? And someone can say, this is impossible. And I will say, this is possible. It's possible if you believe in yourself. It's possible if you have the open mindset, and it's possible if you truly believe that if you focus in the solution, which is changing country, go to a different country and learning different language, and the culture can bring you new opportunity. Otherwise, if you focus on the problem, I would be crying, and still trying to figure out. But I believe that each one of us can really, really make the best way to overcome challenge and succeed in any point in the life if you just step a little back and believe in yourself and have the open mindset to believe that I can do it. If I did, Elan with 3 kids, and today I'm here, Antaba, I know Robin, Stella, Margaret, Felicia, and now I'm meeting you. If I can change my life in this way and also the future of my children, I believe that anyone can do it. And you will find more in my book. It's a very inspiring book, and it gives you all the details about the type of mindset I adopt to be successful here and to be here today in front of you, which is a blessing for me, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much.
I'll say that again. Wow. Okay. This is an absolute privilege, guys, as I say, to have this quality of African authors in our midst, something we don't realize, something we don't appreciate. And we were hoping to get a little bit more social media here today, but as we all know, it's a hard pull and a hard try. Do something wrong and they're there immediately. Hey, we all know that. Anyway, guys, how would you like to do the questions and answers? Would you like to just pass the mic around?
Yeah.
Okay. Guys, would any of you like to ask any questions of the authors? Basically, if they have another book coming out, how long did it take them to write the book?
I have a question.
Yes.
Could you stand and go over there and ask the question? Thank you.
Yeah, what upcoming books can we see from each 3 of you?
Okay. Actually, for me, it's one of my earlier publications. One of the ones I published in Nigeria is called The Sugarcane Babies. So at the time I published it, it's like I really did not put in the best that I could. So now I want to be able to republish here, and I want to be able to put in the amazing pictures that you will see in Ose the Nigerian Cinderella to make it more readable and more kid-friendly, because there are some books that little kids will read and the pictures just tell the story. That's my aim.
Well, thank you for the question.
How long did it take you to write your book? Before you answer that?
That's July and September. I started in 2011.
Someone give me
The mic.
the iPad to me.
It's the lead, right?
And then what will happen, excuse me for the interruption, this will be the question mic, and then they can always speak on that.
Thank you, sir. There we go. Got that sorted out.
Well, thank you. So July and September, I actually started in 2011. Well, that's really when I started writing short stories and books in general. It wasn't until I was approached by a publisher that I decided to finish it. So in order to have a novel, you need to have about 90,000 words. So when they came to me and they said, we want to see something in 2 weeks, and we want something that's finished, I just went back and looked at everything that I had. In July and September, I think I had about 70-something words. So I just went with that one and just finished it and sent it in. But really, I don't have a set time frame because I was writing different things at the time. It wasn't just this one that I would say it took me a year. And my writing is not really linear, so it's not like I write one thing and finish. So I'll write 10 different things depending on how I'm inspired. And with July and September, I think I started with chapter 10 before I even had a chapter 1, and how my writing process was. I would have chapter 1, chapter 7, chapter 13, 12, and just later on put it all together. So I hope that helps. And the next book that I have published, to your question, was I have a book coming out hopefully by the end of the year. It's titled As I Lay Here Lying to Myself. It's also in the same genre. So I'm inspired by Nicola Yoon, which actually I found out that she embodies what I try to portray, which is pretty much like when you see a lot of the romance or whatever, it's usually the pretty girl that ends up with the guy, and maybe the black girl or the not so pretty girl, the short one, or somebody with disabilities is the one that ends up being the comic relief or the sidekick. So I try to maybe take the underdog and make them the storyline, the protagonist, the one we focus on, instead of them just being the side piece. Thank you.
That's a really great question. So when I wrote my first book, my idea for the second book was to keep writing to help other people here in the U.S., especially for immigrants. So I'm writing how I did start my company here. I'm a business owner here in Louisville. And because I know how challenge can be for immigrants, especially if you come to the U.S. with the mindset that you want to invest and start your life in here. I truly believe that starting your own business is one of the ways for you to empower yourself, for women and young people, and especially when you have kids, because if you are working full-time job, from 9 or from 8 to 5 or to 6, and you don't have the time to spend with your children, to see your children, follow up with the homework, believe me, can be very, very hard. So that's why I jumped into the business after working in a bank, because I say to myself, I want to see my kids growing. So I don't want just to be an immigrant in US where my children's growing by themselves and I don't have the opportunity to see them, because I will lose this opportunity, and this is something that I don't want to regret when I will be older. So I jumped into the business, and because a lot of immigrants as well, when they come here, the question is, how do I start a business in US? How can I invest in US? And I want to write the second book and helping them with all the challenge that I had in the past to start my own business and answer all the questions and give them the opportunity for themselves to be able to make choices, and also give women the opportunity when they come here to the US with their children, they have an option and they can say, hey, I can start a business. I didn't have this opportunity in my country just because the system didn't work, didn't allow me. So now I'm here in US, I can truly be myself and just, jumping into the business. That will be the focus of my second book.
Guys, I'm sorry that I forgot to introduce one of the most important Africans to me in my life. If it wasn't for her, we wouldn't have what we've got here. My wife's still a mountain. All right, guys, with that, we're going to ask the ladies if they'd take up a table, put your books on it, and sign them. Thank you very much once again for joining us. It was such a privilege. Unfortunately, it's a fraction wet outside, so we'll do everything inside. Gentlemen, if you'd help us get some tables ready for your moms to get some books on. And that's it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We will appreciate it. Thank you so much, Damien, for your work.
Yeah, Damien, thank you very much.
No problem. Glad to be here. So what you can do, just do a quick stand right here and say, hey, if you want my book, please feel free to click on the QR code and it'll take you to my book. Because I have it to where they can
Did you hear what you said?
I don't know if I did.
You first. He says, what is your book? You have to go with your book and say, if you want to buy my book, just click here on the link and they will take you to where you would need to buy your book. That's it. He has everything system. You first.
stand right there. So you stand right there.
Microphone.
3, 2.
Hi, this is Margaret Tari, and if any of you want a copy of this book outside from buying it from me, you can go to Amazon. You can go to Amazon. The book is available on Amazon and also Walmart.
And the QR code. So click on the QR code on the screen.
Click on the QR code on the screen. Yes, thank you.
Hi, this is Felicia. Buy my book. Thank you. I'm joking. I don't have my QR code with me, but you can check me out on Amazon. Okay, so check out the QR code and check out my website. And I'm on Facebook as well, Amazon, everywhere. Barnes & Noble, Target.com.
I need to concentrate. Hi everyone, thank you so much for watching. If you want to buy my book, you just click here on the QR code, or you can find my book on Amazon. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. Thank you. That was great. Very interesting. I hope I could inspire you, for all the challenge that we women is anyway. Thank you so much for coming.
Hello, everybody. This is Damian Donaldson, owner of BLVE. If you're interested in more events like this, please go to our Facebook page, blve.llc, and you'll have pickleball, you'll have book signings, you'll have a variety of different things in the Louisville area. Support local businesses. See you next time. All right, that's good. No, that's good. I'm done. I'm gonna start recording. So I'm gonna end the stream. This is great. I also did an extra recording too, and I took pictures. You saw me floating around. So I'll make sure all that's available for you.